All right.
There you go. What's good?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Pop open those pill bottles. It's time to take your daily dose. So stupid. We are joined today by Spencer. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, if you don't mind?
Sure. I'm Spencer Aubrey, aka PS Etiquette. I am a full-time DJ, musician, dabble in coffee a bit, and I'm from Arizona originally. I've been in Winston-Salem for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
I'm married and have a chicken and a cat.
One chicken and one cat.
One chicken and one cat.
Two
That's all you
C's.
need.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need in life.
A chicken and a cat.
I want you to know that I'm very excited for today because I feel like I always see you like in the realm of things happening in this city,
Mm-hmm.
but I have never really been able to sit down and talk to you. Like actually learn more about you, and
This is the moment.
now's the time.
Now's the time. I'm with it.
But as always, we're gonna start with some zine making.
Of course.
You wanna-
We can dive into some zine talk. So zines are just a form of creating small magazines, if that makes any sense. And so artists use them to put their work in them. They do poems, they talk about current events, whatever it may be. But we are just doing a collage of whatever you feel in the moment. No pressure. Just dive into it. It can be as crazy as you want it to be.
Okay. Sweet. You got glue?
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
We
good.
have construction papers,
Sweet.
magazines, and then it depends on how. Like the first time we did it, we folded the pages in half, but this time we kind of like
Yeah, I just went for the full
did a
page.
full page.
Okay. Yeah.
But whatever you want to do, the world is your oyster.
Sounds good. All right.
If you want to start with the lovely toaster, you're more than welcome to.
Yes. So someone cut out this toaster. Was it last week or the week before?
I think it was Gabby. I think it
And-
was Gabby that.
Oh.
I guess.
So we
yeah. I think it was
And
Gabby
it was
that.
never used.
Okay.
So.
Toaster.
I would be honored to use the toaster Gabby cut out. So,
Yeah.
sweetness.
Toaster.
Awesome.
And just to begin some of our conversation,
Mm-hmm.
the first question that we ask: what brought you to art?
Wow.
That's a big question.
That is a big question.
Origin.
It
The
is.
origin story.
Oh my. Well, as far as art, I don't really remember a time when I wasn't involved in something artistic. So from growing up in choirs to, being on like the dance team where we had a dance team at church, which was awesome.
Nice. Okay. That's kind of
So,
sick.
yeah. So like doing productions early on. Yeah, I think it was just something like my dad loves to sing, plays a little bit of piano. My mom can appreciate art, and so I think in my home or growing up with just the context I was in, I think it was just something that was just there, and so it kind of just fell into it a bit. So that is probably what brought me there, is just being able to be in an environment where, it was appreciated and something that my folks and then other friends of mine too just kind of gave space for. So, yeah.
That's fire.
I feel like this is a common trend whenever we ask that question, is people are like, oh, well, my family or my parents were very open to like, me exploring art. And that's so powerful. If you have kids, let them do art. Anyway.
I feel like if you have kids, please.
Like, no, really, though.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like art is a very simple thing to let kids do. I feel like sports, there's a lot of dangers. You could get hurt or you could be discouraged. But I feel like with art, there's no like, I don't know what to say, an end goal. There's no like perfect model. It's just like you just do it, which is also, I guess, kind of scary. But I mean,
Yeah.
when your brain's not that developed, you can kind of do anything. There's no restrictions for your brain.
Absolutely.
Kids just like,
Just color. Yeah, because we all colored and did that kind of stuff when we were kids, for sure.
yeah. The imagination is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. And a scary thing.
It is, yeah. I'm like that
It
too.
could
That
be
too.
definitely stressful.
So then, what would you say is your chosen craft as an artist? Like, if people say, what kind of art do you do?
Well, it kind of is. It's hard to just narrow it down to one.
It could be multiple things.
I'm DJing pretty often and doing some vocals for other things as well. And so that's maybe the more musical side of things.
Music.
I'm also I'm a poet too. So I
Nice.
went to school for poetry and have over the course of time kind of published some things, some articles, and then a poem and working on a couple projects. And so those would probably be the two main ones would be poetry and then anything musically related. Yeah.
Which goes hand in hand,
Mhm.
obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you play instruments?
Mostly just vocals. I can play a little bit of bass, but not enough to be dangerous. And then I do consider the turntables an instrument, and so there's a lot of the same type of, you know, I guess practice and some of the things that you apply to other instrumentation that you have to do with the turntables, and
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I mean I definitely would
Well, and your
categorize.
body is an instrument as well. Like
Yeah.
your voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're really finding all of these faces. I'm
That's
sorry.
what
I'm
trying
like.
to do. But I'm gonna cut these up. See, like I'm gonna use this smile. Is that scary?
It's giving like a scary version of the Teletubby song. You know.
Oh, it kind of is. It really is.
That's what it looks like. I'm gonna steal this.
Wow.
Teletubbies.
Teletubby songs. Which the son now, okay, in the new series on Netflix is a black baby.
There's a new series.
Oh, word?
There is, yeah.
The son is a black baby.
Dang.
We love to see it. Anyways. I say this like I'm gonna watch Teletubbies. I'm not.
You're like,
Okay.
What are your ambitions as an artist?
oof.
That's
You went
the one that
long.
everyone's always like, ooh.
I know because that's a
Yeah.
big question.
I'll say it's I mean, I'm trying to think about it. I guess I can give it in the short term, maybe midterm and long term. Would that be
Yeah.
okay? Short term would be to finish the projects that I'm working on. I'm helping a buddy with his album right now. So doing some of the vocal work on it,
Nice.
and then kind of bringing, help providing some just creative input as well in terms of direction. But that would be one of the things. Maybe midterm would be to, I want to publish a chapbook. There's a series I've been working on with, I've interviewed in some ways and then kind of given space for people to just tell their story in the homeless community. And so being able to like retell their stories or some things about their stories that really have stuck out and kind of evoke a call to action for people to really just consider them, you know, with more dignity and humanity, because oftentimes it's a very transactional type of relationship. It's like I give you money because you asked for it, and then there's like this weird, I don't know, uncomfortability with it. And so trying to create context for people to be moved by it and moved by people's stories in a way that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise, you know, having the opportunity to in like the 30 seconds that they may see somebody on the side of the road or walking down the street or something like that. So that would be that's the midterm goal, is to like complete that project and get it done, and then kind of disseminate it and hopefully, you know, evoke some change. And then long term, I think as an artist, my perspective has changed a lot on maybe my involvement in what it looks like to be a creative. And so for a long time, I was like, yeah, it's just going to be me on these turntables with this pad writing this stuff, and I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to do it. And I think over time, it has kind of morphed into what are ways that I can help foster platforms for other people. And not only just as like as a DJ, I mean, you kind of have that built in because you're playing a lot of other people's music. And so you're kind of providing them a platform without necessarily them, you know, knowing, or, you know, as a, you know, doing stuff at maybe Arts Council with this monthly thing is like, you know, there's curating different bands and groups to play that maybe haven't necessarily had that type of space to be able to enjoy an audience, or the audience enjoy them, you know,
Right.
for their art and appreciate them. So I think long term would be to be in a role of being able to continue to provide artists, creatives, platforms where they can not only do their art, and then have people, you know, see it, find it, you know, enjoy it, but also to be able to maybe be in a role of maybe mentorship that looks like creating an environment for a lot of artists and, you know, musicians and so forth, to feel like they have the tools and the skills and things necessary to be able to move and push forward and even go beyond, you know, where the artists that, you know, I am, or artists that I'm around right now currently are at. So yeah, that's
That seems to be like a natural progression. I would hope for a lot of artists in the world is like you spend some time focusing on yourself and your own art, and like this is what I want to do. This is like what I want to tell the world. And then once you've kind of done that, it's like, okay, my perspective is fine, but there are so many others in the world, and like now that I have a little bit of experience, how can I share that and like create more? Because then you're part of the creation of even more work, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great ambitions.
Thank you.
How would you say, because this is a mental health podcast, we talk very much in terms of like how we have been impacted by our art in terms of our mental health. So how would you say your art has impacted your mental health?
Wow. It has, sheesh. I actually just came back from Washington State a few weeks ago. I was there. I was accepted as one of the members of this cohort, and the majority of the cohort is kind of talking about mental health and creatives and how you balance the two, or like what does it look like. So this is a very, I think, timely question. Uh, I would say my art has impacted my mental health some ways positively, in some ways in some pretty negative ways too, I would say. I think the performative aspect of art really shaped me early, and kind of in, actually not even kind of, but like in some pretty unhealthy ways, to where, you know, it has, having to overcome this fear, or like this constant push toward fitting into other people's expectations for what my art ought to look like.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a point where dismantling that is helpful, but it also can bring down a whole lot of just who you've built yourself to be, or like built around in that particular perspective. And so I feel like, yeah, that over time it's kind of shown more and more that it's been like, oh, you got an unhealthy fear of other people not liking what you do, and then that really impacts how you know, go about, you know, stepping into a set, or, you know, standing up on stage. And it's like everybody may get nervous or whatever, but like it can come out in some pretty interesting ways, you know, whether it's, you know, not stepping into and be like, no, I'm going to do it this way because this is, I believe I've practiced this, I know what I'm doing, you know. But it can, yeah, it just can manifest in a lot of different ways. And then I would say on the positive side, there's so much more room, I think, for perspective, that art has really helped me to kind of grasp. There's, you know, when you're looking at other styles of art, when I'm looking at other styles of art, whether it's poet, you know, if it's another poet, or if it's a painting, or it's other people's music, different styles of music, you know, or just, you know, the gamut of art, like, I think I see myself as a very small piece of that larger, you know, context. And it's a humbling thing, but it also is like, wow, like I can do this in this way, and it's like a part of it. But you're right, like to your point earlier, it's like there's so many other people that are doing these things in maybe slightly different ways, maybe in drastically different ways. But it's just like it kind of has given more space for that perspective to kind of foster, like, oh, I'm just a piece of this. and there's other pieces of this. Let's get to know the other pieces of this because this puzzle looks freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's helped to really bring that out more, which I can appreciate, maybe a contemporary dance piece that has, movements that I'm like, wow, I never even thought about moving like that, but that's really, really freaking great.
Yeah. Yeah, I never even thought about it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's, in a positive way, I think that's how, pushing into the art that I'm doing, but then in light of the larger context of other art, been able to have that perspective. So.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. Yeah, I've got
What?
I've got 3 biological siblings and then 2 step siblings. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
I was just gonna say what you were talking about in terms of having this. I don't want to say this need to like people please, but like especially in art, like having this desire to seek validation versus just doing what you're trying to do.
How does that feel like only child behavior?
Yeah, no, I have terrible only child syndrome, and especially like in the beginning with my art, like I had this perspective of like just I've always done everything by myself, and so it's like one of those things where I'm like, well, I'll just do this.
You don't share it all.
Yeah, I know. So it's like I'll just do it by myself. Like no one else needs to help. It's okay. It's fine. But it's one of those things where it's like, especially in art, community is very important.
Absolutely.
Because you cannot do everything
Yeah.
on your own. Like that is not how this works at all.
I know that like we had the experience moving from like the first film that I ever made with Kamari, Sad Clown, which was literally the 2 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was just
Directing, writing, costume designing,
dang, y'all did everything.
cinematography. Like we did literally everything in that piece that could possibly be done. And then we moved on to our next film, Libations, and we had a production designer and we had a costume designer. And I remember like us having a moment where we were like, we don't have to think about every single thing. Like someone else can like spend all of their energy thinking about the production design. And they're better at that than we ever will be. And so now we can just focus on the things that we're good at. And like this collaborative, like the beauty of collaboration can just exist. And the movie was so much better.
Yes.
You know?
That's real.
So there is something, I think, to like the idea of like an artiste or whatever who does everything, who's like, but also like you can only do so much. And if you're spreading yourself that thin, something's going to get missed.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the work will suffer. And you will suffer.
Yeah.
Talking about mental health, you will suffer. Like,
'Cause I totally get the idea of community, but like I feel like in the beginning I definitely struggled here because I'm like, what community is then? And like going to school of the arts, the community is there, but when you leave, it dissipates because everybody scatters. Like not everybody stays here. Everyone leaves, and so like that part of your community that you had is now like gone, and so you're like, how do I reform?
well, are they gone or has your community just gotten wider? You know what I mean? Like
It has gotten wider.
rather than like all of your community being in one place, now you have artists in New York and LA and wherever, you know? Just a different
You're like just a different
just a
perspective.
perspective shift.
I just think of, I guess now I don't know how to utilize
Sure.
that.
And yeah, and there is something to having people in your backyard who can help you.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
It's like, where is that? And that's what we're doing right now. No? It's like trying to form. I don't know what.
Collage of things.
A collage of things. So then, speaking of Winston-Salem, what brought you to Winston? Are you from here?
I'm not from here,
you're
no.
from
From Arizona, yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah, so in, 2019, my brother, who, one of my brothers, he transferred to work at the Charlotte airport. And so he was moving from Arizona to here and, well, to Charlotte specifically, but had some family who's been in Winston for a few years, my dad and my stepmom, and then my sister and her boys were here at the time. They're still here as well too, but yeah. So basically we were coming up to Winston to visit them for a little bit and then drive down to Charlotte to help him move in. And that was how I got here. And then I was going to stay with my sister for basically a month and then go back to Arizona. And I had recently put my stuff in storage because I was like, I'll be there for a month. So I have, I was moving out of the place I was living at the time anyway. And I was just like, I'll just get another place when I get back, and ended up not permanently going back. And so I just
You stayed
stayed.
here?
Yeah, I got a job, funny, at Camino, like the second week that I was here.
Oh, really?
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then it was like, they put me on for like almost full time off the jump. So I was like, well, I mean, I'll do this, I'll work, and we'll see how things go. And then I stayed through the winter, and then the pandemic hit, and
Oh.
so I was like, well, I guess I'll really be here. So
That's so interesting.
yeah.
So why are you still here?
I mean, I think I've had to ask myself that question actually more recently. There are some things tying me here, which is, I mean, in good ways. Like, I got married, so
Right.
my wife and I are here. We bought a house, and so we've got a house in Boston Thurman, neighborhood just north of downtown. So that's a little bit more permanence there.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm working every week, doing a lot of creative things, which is neat. So I mean, there's the maybe the roots of that, and then the community that I'm is being built. I'm a part of building all these other things. Is starting to really take shape in ways that I was not necessarily not expecting, but coming from a place where I spent 29 plus years into a place where now I've only been here for like what 3.5 years. It's like I was not expecting the depth of certain things to happen so quickly.
Yes.
Because over time, in Arizona, like I was able to build that community over a long stretch of years. And so, but in Winston, even with the pandemic, like there's been so much growth in depth of like relationship and other things too. And I just feel like maybe this is, where I'm supposed to be. Maybe this is like, all of the things that were present are starting to come to bear in Winston. The things that were present in Arizona, basically. And so it's kind of like I'm still here because I'm trying to give space and opportunity for it to develop and for me to develop in the midst of that. This is a very different season, and a lot of my family is here. A lot of my wife's family is here. A lot of the community that we're building is here, and I just feel like there's a sense of place that I'm trying to lean into more, and just kind of, be like, okay, I'm like, we're here. We have some things that are rooting us, and let's just give it a shot.
Yeah,
And,
let's see what happens.
yeah, and I'm like, Lord willing, like it'll be the right decision. And even if it's not, like there will be things to learn from it,
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I think that's, just trying to give it a chance and just trust the Lord with whatever happens. So, yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. That's been good.
Okay. I'm always curious why people are in Winston.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't.
what you doing here?
I don't always understand why I'm in Winston, so
Yeah.
that's why I.
Yeah.
But no, I think that there's a lot happening in this space and in the triad as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Team Greensboro girl all the way. I love Greensboro.
GB's dope, yo.
But that's where I went to college, so I'm like I feel much more tied to Greensboro. Like last night I went and got dinner in Greensboro.
Where'd you go?
Mellow Mushroom. I was meeting Skylar and his parents, so that was like
Oh, okay.
a good in between spot for all of us.
That's awesome.
You like mellow
I
mushroom?
could have gone down the street, but I chose to go to Greensboro now. And I was like, Saturday night in Greensboro is boppin'. And I was
It
like, oh, I miss this city.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's more nostalgia than anything, It's like I became an adult in Greensboro, and like that was the first place I ever lived that like wasn't my parents' house, So there's like something kind of warm and fuzzy about that. That's also where I like survived the pandemic, like in Greensboro.
Yeah.
It's like really my first like home away from home.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a lot of formative points in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
There. So.
But Winston's cool. It's
Yeah.
fine. Just kidding.
And you're like, what seems cool? I don't know. I still don't consider. It's one of those things. I was just thinking about this. I don't know if I consider Winston-Salem to be my home yet. And I guess it's because I still haven't had like a permanent living situation. I As in, like, I don't move every year. Like, it's, like, there hasn't been a moment where it's, like, gonna be here for, like, a while.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, I know I'm gonna have to be here for a while, but it's, like, I don't have a permanent, like...
actual, that makes
just
sense.
gonna stay here for, like...
Because
3
I
years.
lived in my house in Greensboro for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Like,
stayed, like,
you
roommates
there.
came and went, but I stayed, you know?
Okay,
And
yeah.
then my last year, I was there by myself. So I was like, it was hard leaving that house.
Yeah.
And it was so cheap.
Like, it was so cheap.
It was so cheap, and I had way too much space for it to be so cheap. I mean, it was it had, you know, it had its issues. But
still, though.
and the location, I could walk everywhere.
That's dope.
Yeah.
You're like...
But anyways, we're going to segue out of the triad. Because I did some research this week into a topic, and I kind of moved away from, I feel like, the way that we've been doing this.
Yeah.
So I would love feedback if this is fun or not.
we love a new direction.
So I actually researched like a thing that's happening, like an actual like news thing that's happening.
Oh.
So in Miami,
Miami.
there is
Shout out to Gabby.
shout out to Gabby.
Yeah,
Oh, I
to
should have done
Allie.
this.
Allie's, I don't know why I did that. Gabby's mom will be here on Tuesday.
Oh, is that Gabby's
Allie,
mom?
Yeah,
Well, Allie, this is for you. So there is an artist and a curator and an environmentalist named Hamina Kaminos. She is an art curator, a cultural placemaker, and she's a founder of the ocean-centric nonprofit Blue Lab Preservation Society.
Okay.
And so her big project that she's working on with a bunch of people, it's not just her, but she's like the spearhead of this project, is they are creating a reef line. So they say that, like, you know, some cities have these like walking paths and community parks and things. She's creating an underwater reef line that will act as a community park, a free like walk path, like strollway type thing. But it also will be created with environmentally friendly materials to create environments for biodiversity, for fish to live. So she's actively trying to kind of solve the issue of the coral reef dying before our eyes.
Yeah. That's fair.
No, it's very, very, very cool. But it's like a piece of art as well, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like,
Definitely.
and so it's a monumental public work featuring an art-studded underwater sculpture park, carbon sequestering artificial reef, and a 7-mile snorkel trail.
Wow.
Running from 4th Street and South Beach to Bale Harbor.
Dang.
7 miles?
7 miles.
Awesome.
Okay.
She received a $5 million bond issue from the city to create it.
Wow.
Or her organization did, Blue Lab did.
Yeah.
So, yeah. She said, the reef line is a manifestation of all the spheres I care most about. It's art as a tool for change, it's sustainable, it's informed by science and technology, and above all, it's participatory, free, and open to the public.
Wow.
That is great.
Yeah.
Woo!
So some of the main goals and things that this project will do, it will create an environment for fish to live, improving biodiversity in the region, and combating the negative impacts of human-made environmental stressors that are leading to declining levels of marine life in the area. It will also create a public park that is free to attend, and it will begin the conversation around preserving and protecting our oceans. So I thought that this was interesting because it's truly a sculpture, like a piece of art that is not only having a positive environmental impact, but it's also drawing attention to change that needs to be made, right? So I just thought that was... so some thoughts and questions and, like, I guess discussion points for us. What are your thoughts on how art can be used to draw attention to important social and environmental issues? Because art is very powerful, right? Like,
It is.
Yes, absolutely.
it draws people's attention a lot more than just a news reporter being like, hey, the oceans are dying, sea levels are rising, you know? But, like, honestly.
Yeah. I think it exercises this part of us and our brains where when you're hit with something that is not necessarily coming at you in a way that you would expect it to, it has a much different. It has a much different impact. Um, yeah, I think it is a wonderful way to kind of break people out of the normative rhythms that they are receiving information, understanding different things, and gives them an opportunity to engage it in a way that is just different and generative. Like it gives space for that creativeness to like come out and be like, hey, maybe there is a solution to this that we haven't really tackled before. I think some of that is embedded in the project I'm working on with the homeless community. Of
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
there's a poem that I have that I try to read it wherever I am because I think it has some of that embedded in it. But just being able to place something in front of people, somebody's story, and that person specifically without them actually being there, but do so in a way that's kind of like it's a narrative and it's nice and it has like some aspects of it that you can follow along with. But then when you get to the punch, it's like, oh dang, I'm that person that you know is in this story, or like I can put myself in the context of whatever's going on here in a way that I wouldn't necessarily do if I was just like driving in my car,
Right.
on the street and seeing somebody. So I think it really it's a great way, not only for people to exercise their creativity and have that be out there and for people to enjoy, but it can and really does like it sidesteps it sidesteps the normal highway of everything,
Yeah.
and it like puts you on this like hiking trail where you're trail running instead, and you're like, I can see all the leaves and the trees in different ways that if I'm passing by at 90 miles an hour, I wouldn't necessarily have
Yeah.
the same appreciation or viewpoint. So.
And humans are very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think that we understand we understand emotion before we understand logic and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
actual like facts, I guess is a weird way to say it, but yeah, I mean, art has always been used as a way to make people understand, the plight of others, I think. But then using it to make, not only to bring attention to something, but also to genuinely make a positive impact that has, like, actual repercussions. Like, that's incredible. And I think it's interesting, we live in the city of arts and innovation.
Yeah.
This is, like, the definition
Of art and
of
innovation.
arts and innovation.
It is.
Working together. So I'm curious, is there anything within Winston-Salem that you think could be improved with some kind of epic art innovation collaboration?
Yeah, I think there's an initiative right now that's trying to tackle the food insecurity in Winston. So there's a partnership I believe that is happening with I think it's Living Architecture Systems Group, SAG, out of Canada, and they have like an arts. Basically, they do these free-form kind of sculptures that are not traditional architecture, but they function in ways and are held together architecturally. And so it's like this big old network of things that has like electronics in it and other, just functional things, but it's a beautiful piece. And like something like that paired with, an initiative to be like, hey, there are ways of being able to address what architecture looks like, and something that looks beautiful is functional, but also, causes you to think differently and has like a very creative aspect to it. And having that as like a kind of a bedrock of, this whole initiative is like, there are ways to address food insecurity and the food economy that can be beautiful and wonderful and like can tie together in ways that give people an opportunity to like not only have something functional that they, having food and like good food, healthy food,
Right.
but in a way that is, beautifully done, through the connecting points of community, of people, of all these different ways that, humans show the best sides of themselves in that way. And so, I mean, something like that is like great,
Yeah.
and like trying to find ways of like creatively, beautifully addressing issues and problems in that way, but tying it to something that has like this the same type of model, but it's in like a different context has been, I think that's really, really cool. But yeah, I would say the food economy is one, and then also, um, I, ever since COVID, I feel like the connectedness of people in public spaces looks a lot different,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I really am. I don't necessarily know. I mean, I think technology in some ways has that impact. It's like you can be
Yeah,
on your phone
absolutely.
when you're nervous, and that's, in some ways it kind of acts like a pacifier for us as people. And it's like, how do we, it's interesting. And
No, it
I'm
is.
like, yo, I'm stressing out. Like, let me
Just
let me
look at
get
my
on here.
phone.
Yeah. And it's like in the uncomfortability of having to do some of the, like, I'm gonna talk to this person even though I don't know them and I don't necessarily. And it's like, but then like that as well can breed a lot of, just different things, different perspectives, ideas, and being able to communicate and connect with people that, you know, maybe have a different frame of reference and have a different mindset. And I think that's lost a lot more in culture today. It's like we don't know how to connect with people who have differences of opinion, and it's like it's difficult to find common ground and commonality because the conditioning is more of like if you don't see this way or say it this way, then it's like you're out.
Yeah.
And it's like that's it. It has. I mean, there's some benefits to that, but then also there's some challenges of like, how do we hold that tension in our hands and still like,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still there.
yeah, it's
You
still
know?
gonna be there.
At the end of the day, we still have all these people in this world, and we have to live here together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think like with art, like you know, anybody can go to some of these galleries and look at paintings and like have a conversation around a piece of art,
Yeah,
a song
absolutely.
that's being played, something else, and like be able to bring out those perspectives, and so I think it can improve, artists in general can just provide that context for people to express differences of opinion, to express that, that tension in a way that kind of is more unifying in terms of that connection, even if the opinions and the way in which the perspectives of those people, come out are maybe different. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers the question.
No,
It does,
absolutely.
yeah. I was like,
Do you think there's anything, Taja? You've been here the longest out of all of us, haven't you?
in Winston?
Yeah.
I mean, relatively. Um, and it's hard because I feel like, I mean, that's like the goal right now is to bridge the gap between the school and downtown. Because I feel like when I was there, I was very disconnected. I don't know if that was just like a workload thing. I don't know if that was not being educated on what is here and like the resources that I can use to be here. But I do feel like there needs to be like a communal something, an initiative, a change. Like I feel like I think it's in the Triad City Beat in Greensboro, they're having a homelessness problem, and I think an organization is handling that by taking over a parking lot for the winter and having like these tiny homes in the parking lot for homeless people to be able to stay in. I think it's like a bunk bed in there, and it has like a functional toilet and like. Yeah. It has heat and like a whole bunch of other things. And I'm like, I feel like that's just needed everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I hate when I walk downtown, I see the stupid bench with the armrests in the middle, and I'm like, come on. Like, I'm like, this is so stupid.
If you want to build a chair, build a chair.
No, literally, like I'm like, this is like the worst thing you could possibly ever do.
Oh man.
But just like I just feel like there needs to be a initiative to humanize people. If that makes any sense.
So everyone give Spencer all of your money so you can make him use.
No, please.
I mean, it's gonna be a group effort. So I'm not a financial guru, but I know some people. So we'll make sure the budget is right. But yeah. Go ahead, Taja. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Because I'm trying to think of more words. Because I feel like there is a level to homeless people that I do get nervous and I don't understand why. Like I'm like, I don't know why I'm nervous to interact with this other human being,
Yeah.
but not any other human being, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things of like I feel like giving money, even though I don't have cash on me, it's like not enough. But I do feel like the resources that are there are also not enough. Like if someone needs something, you should give them the best option that there is, and not the lowest and cheapest option.
Yeah.
Like if I needed transportation to get to work, you shouldn't give me a scooter. You should give me a car. like it's just one of those things. Like I feel like in order for the problem to be solved, you need to give the best possible solution, and it will be fixed. Like literally giving someone a house. And be like, this is yours.
Oh yeah, and there's like
You
so
can
many
rebuild everything
like
that you
homes
have,
that are just sitting unused
Yes.
in this world.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, but it's okay.
I'm gonna be transparent if you don't like.
Please.
Not that I haven't been, but
but just,
but then maybe in a deeper way. But even on the drive over here, so there's a homeless man. I'll leave him unnamed just for the sake of this conversation. But like, he's over there. He's asking a lot of people at this restaurant outside of it for money, and I know him. I've helped him out, before, and and I think I got uncomfortable because I'm like, he's invading somebody else's space while they're trying to have breakfast. And it's like, that may not necessarily be the time or the place.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
And everybody's having breakfast. And it's like, so pull over, hand him some money. And I'm like, hey, man, like, you doing all right? He's like, man, you see me down here. He's like, you know me down here. He's like, can you just look out for me when I'm down here? He's like, nothing about necessarily the money. It was, whatever it was. But he's like, can you just look out for me? Like, can you, like, you see me when you're down here in downtown, just look out for me. Can you do that for me? I was like, yeah, man, I can. And it's like, there's a part of like stepping into the situation of addressing a problem has, I think two components of like, you can give to it and it's not necessarily associated with anything that would be uncomfortable. And then you can step into it with your personhood and that uncomfortability, in addition to like what you're giving can be impactful, maybe even just as impactful. Like, he didn't ask me for no money. He just was like, can you look out for me? And I was like, wow, like, you're asking me to not just give you something, but to be present with you. And I think that's like, there's a different type of gift there that isn't necessarily as, it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It takes time, attention, resources that are maybe not necessarily always monetary. And I think, to speak to what you're saying over the uncomfortability maybe that I feel is like, how is this pushing against what is generally acceptable in public spaces? Is this person going to react or respond in a way that I can, that I'm expecting? Like when you walk up to a university, most of the time, people are going to, there's education going on, there's other things going on. You kind of be like, I can expect that I'm going to have some sort of like intellectual conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Sure.
But in the, a lot of times, even just me personally, it's like, maybe with a homeless person, it's like, I don't necessarily know where they are. I don't know mentally where they are. I don't necessarily know what situation or what circumstance they're in. I don't know if they're at the point of breaking, and this might be the one step right before that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's a fear there, and it's like breaking that down in some way, shape, or form, maybe with art, but over the course of something is like, helps to, what you're talking about, like humanize them and like put them in a position of like, man, they might have nothing, they might be on their last leg, but that's still a person over there.
Yeah.
It's still a person that's just like, they're hungry too, they got needs too, they want to have a beer too.
Yeah, no, literally.
I'm like, when I'm stressed out, sometimes I have a beer too, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Maybe they just at that point.
Yeah.
But like that, that fear or that uncomfortability that's in that can, when we put ourselves in that place of like, they're just trying to get by just like we are. And it's like, oh, maybe that's like, maybe it's not as scary. It still can be scary. I mean, for different reasons. At 12 o'clock at night, on the street corner, it might be
Yeah.
a little bit more stressful.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
it kind of brings it to the point of like, let's just be on this level of like, you're a human, I'm a human, you're struggling, I'm struggling. Where can we find some commonality in that? And that's hard. So that's hard to kind of step into, but I think it's definitely worth asking. So I appreciate you saying that, of like, you're wrestling with where you're at with that too. And I'm like, man, I totally resonate with that. I definitely wrestle.
I feel like that's the other thing. Coming out of the pandemic and not really interacting with people, and then having these weird interactions, and you're like, am I crazy? And you're like, no.
Well, I think we all also kind of left the pandemic a little more socially awkward
Yeah.
than we like went into it,
Oh,
you know?
100%.
You're like, am I crazy?
Yeah, like we all kind of forgot how to behave in
Yes,
public.
yeah.
I remember like when like public space was like a thing again, and I was like, how do I like
You're like, how do I
act? Like, because I never really knew, but like.
You're like, but now I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, I didn't, man. I take my shoe off and put my foot in the water.
But yeah, excellent. Some ways that arts and innovation can.
Just bring everybody together.
Yeah, because empathy and like humanity is the only way to really make change, right?
Yeah.
You know, like science can only do so much.
Yeah.
Which obviously science does a lot, but
you're like, we're not denouncing science, but
but
it does have limitations.
It has its limitations.
oh.
How's your zine coming along, Taja?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. It's just a bunch of lines, a lot of patterns.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna put in it. I feel like words have to be on here.
You think
Because
so?
there's words on the other side. So
I just added more faces.
Nice.
You're like, there's just more faces.
I just put more faces on mine.
Sweet. Can I borrow the glue? Because I got to glue some.
Yes.
Glue it down.
Yeah. I got to find a way to secure the toaster.
Next, secure the toaster. Also, I realized I didn't answer your question, but I do think there's some type of art that can be in place that puts everybody on the same level. I don't know what that is or how you do that, but there is a way to do it. I wish I knew.
Well, you kind of answered it. I think that, like, even just having a resource to share stories that humanize, like, I think that does a lot. I remember, like, having a very distinct moment because I grew up in Asheville. Asheville has a lot of unhomed people. And I remember someone stopping my mom and I in our car and like knocking on the window and being like, do you have any, knocking on my window, the passenger side window, when I was like, I don't know, I was probably 12 or 13, I was a kid. And I didn't roll it down, and my mom was like, here, like my mom used to keep like a couple bills just like in her, whatever that little thing is.
Glove.
Yeah, like
Whatever,
wherever, right in her car. She was like, well, just hand him that. And I was, very like angsty.
Yeah, you were like...
I was like, but he's dirty. Like, that's what I said. And my mom was like, yeah, and you know what? If you hand him that bill, your hand might get a little dirty, but you can wash your hand. And I was like, oh.
You're like, woo!
My whole life changed. I was like, I guess you're right. Like, I actually have the privilege of a shower when I get home, you know? Like, so I gave him some money.
Damn.
But even that, just that little bit of like, sheesh.
Because there's just like preface, I don't know, expectation of unhomed people that I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where it stems from, but it's like ingrained in everybody. And I wish it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just people. Like, it really makes no sense.
Also, like, I think that humans get very uncomfortable with the idea that, like, it really doesn't take a lot for any of us to be in a place where we have to ask for our, like, fellow humans for, like, very significant help, you know what I mean? And I think that simple fact makes us all very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also there's almost in a protective sense, in a way to, like, push back against that. It's like, that could never be me. Like, that's the mentality. There's a lot of blame that goes into that as well, right? Like, oh, well, this person is in this situation because they're a drug addict or this, or they're an alcoholic. And so it's, like, their fault for some reason, even though those are, like,
normal.
No.
It's not someone's fault that they're an alcoholic. Like that's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hear you. Well, definitely to your point of my train of thought is starting to leave.
It's okay.
Come on, train of thought, you can do it. Yeah, just that uncomfortable part of that of like, oh, this could never be me. It's like you're only one decision away or one crisis away a lot of times from any of that being the reality.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like your whole house could be on fire and your insurance company might F up and like, oh, well, unfortunately you now have nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's just like the more that there's disassociation from like what could really happen or what that person's circumstance is, it just creates, I guess, in that way further distance from the humanization or that dignity piece.
And on that note, no, I'm just kidding.
It's time for me to read my poem.
Yeah, do you want to read your poem?
Sure. Yeah.
Read
Go
it.
for it. All right. It's called Michael.
Michael.
I wait on corners with signs of cardboard and faded markers, longing for you to catch glimpses of my brow line. I lack eyes, and the dark craters where my pupils should be are all I have. They speak of an empty soul, withered by sun, rain, drips, and rays. I cannot see you. In hushed tones, call out, dangling $1, faded and dingy brown. A wad of pale and rustic colors still folded from the collapse of our country's wallet. I take it, though. A brief relief and solace. See, it takes $10 a day to live on the street, but I buy organic, so it costs me more. Frugal, they say. That's the best way to describe it, but no one ever stays long enough to know. They all just drive away. My name is Michael. And if you haven't met me, it's probably because you've been too shaped by your mother's scolding to leave the window open with the AC on. And if you have met me, maybe you know me by other names, like bum, or hobo, or that ammonia-wearing, rags-for-clothes having no address in the city to get a job homeless guy. Yeah, that's me. Sorry if my stench makes your eyes water. I'd cry too if I had eyes.
So everyone give Spencer $1 million so you can make this piece. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, anytime.
Appreciate
That
it.
was. Damn. Something about poetry that just.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It reads
It's
better
that
in my brain
empathy,
than
right?
I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we're to our stopping place here. That was a great way to end with the
It was.
poem.
That was.
So thank you, Spencer, so much.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me.
Yeah.
This is great.
I would love for you to shout out your monthly event as well.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a little info on that.
Yeah, it's called Amplify,
Hey.
and it's at Arts Council. We're shooting for the third Thursday of every month. It may change a little bit, but just look for Amplify, sponsored by Arts Council. It will take place where all of the different theaters are that Arts Council has the wonderful opportunity to use. So either in Haynesbrand, where the Milton Road Center is, Reynolds Place, or the Black Box that's upstairs, which Mount Castle Theater, which is great. So that's where it's at.
Dope.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and we always, of course, will shout that out on our events announcements. Do you want to talk about the lab really quick?
The Lab is an underground artist event about experimentation and collaboration. I'm glad to announce that the next lineup is all POC artists. We love to see it. Anyways, if you're listening to this and you've gotten a message from me on Instagram, it's from me. If you're wondering like,
It's Taja.
who is messaging me from this
Taja
organization?
is.
It's me. It's me. Because Instagram's algorithm sucks. And so this is what I have to do to get attention.
But that being said, if you are an artist interested in some experimental exploration and showing some of your work off, hit us up. We have this super cool event happening the first Monday. What is it? Second?
It's a Monday in a month. It'll be on the Instagram.
We're working out.
We try to do every first, but
Okay.
no.
Okay.
There's a lot of holidays at the beginning of each month that kind of get close to Mondays, so.
Okay, that's okay. Well, just stay tuned. Otherwise, stay tuned. We'll be putting out another events announcement for the Triad tomorrow. Yeah, so just stay up with that.
Stay up.
Just stay up with that. We've all hit our limit, I think, of talking.
Stay up with that.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you, Spencer.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.